We'll go ahead and call the meeting of the TCC to order for September 12th. Welcome, everyone. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
We do not. We did receive one comment from a resident of North Asheville who wanted to pass on that he believes that the data regarding Merriman Avenue and the road diet is not accurate, and that traffic congestion has gotten much worse than what's indicated in the data report, and generally feels that the project was a mistake. So that was one comment we received from the public earlier this week.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on into, we need to approve our agenda and consent agenda. There's 2 items on consent, unless anything else needs to be added. Unless anyone has any questions, we'll need a motion and a second.
This is William. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda and the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Jana. I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, I'll let y'all take us through roll call.
All right. Asheville, Lucy Crown.
I guess Anna Sexton and as her alternate approve.
No, I'm sorry. She's marked as there in the quorum sheet.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Anna Sexton will be. I'll change that.
Art, Jessica Moore. Buncombe County, William High.
Approve.
Buncombe Transit, Chloe Donahoe.
Approve.
TPD, Daniel Sellers.
Approved.
Fletcher, Eric Rufa.
Aye.
Haywood County, Jody Ferguson.
Approve.
Apple Country Public Transit, Jana Bianculli.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Matthew Manley. Maggie Valley, Sam Collins.
Aye.
Landis Sky RPO, Vicki Eastland.
Aye.
NCDOT 13, I'm not sure which one.
Hannah Smith.
Hannah Smith.
Hannah Smith. NCDOT, Stephen Williams.
Aye. Approved. Well, 7 Sparks. It's confusing.
Yeah, I've had it.
All right, so we'll move into our business items. We have 2. The first one is amendments to the 24-2033 TIP.
All right, and I will hand things off to Hannah Bagley, who is joining us from the Great Trail Street Conference in Winston-Salem. Hannah, at some point, we will let you go to a session and stop having you on virtually. But take it away.
I've been to one session so far, so I am joining from the conference center, so if you hear noise in the background, my headphones are not connecting to my laptop right now. So we've got quite a few TIP amendments this month. The full TIP amendment summary is in your agenda packet. Some highlights to look out for are the segmenting of HE0001, which is the Pratt and Whitney interchange. It's been segmented into an A and B section. The A section is constructing the interchange, and the B section is constructing the multimodal improvements in that section. There's also a significant cost increase to I-2513AA, which is I-40 from Monte Vista Road to Sandhill Road, and that cost estimate went up about $34 million. FY 25 and 26 construction funding was added to the bridge over Champion Drive, HB0004, and there's also other bridge projects in which funding was added. There are a few safety projects in both divisions 13 and 14 that have funding added to it. And these improvements include guardrails, crosswalks, and rapid flashing beacons. Those are all HS projects, and those can be found in the TIP amendments. There's also some rail projects in the TIP amendments as well, and most of them are just either deleting rail crossings or adding funding to them. One amendment that we want to make to the TIP amendments that you see is TS 6181, which is the transit funding. Tristan, are we going to end up pulling that and moving that to our October amendments just so we can get more clarification on that?
Yes, that's correct. I believe we talked with Amber Wagner at the city, and she said they're working on revising the spend plans with some of the subrecipients. So when that's finished, we can bring that item back.
So the recommendation is to approve all of the TIP amendments to the board aside from TS 6181, which is the first project that you see in that packet for the TIP amendments in the agenda packet. Does anybody have any questions?
I guess I have a question for Division 13 with HE 0001. Can you guys kind of walk through the segmentation of the project and what that's going to mean for implementation and why segmentation is needed?
Sure. There are two portions. There's the HE 0001A and B. The A section is the interchange, essentially, and that's under construction now. It was done as a supplemental with the I-4700 project. So we had to differentiate between the plans for that one, and then the B section is the connector road, the East Frederick Homestead Law Way road that connects the existing roundabout and that road from the continuation of the 191. So that was why we segmented it, and the B section will be let independently. So
okay. So the interchange is being built as part of I-4400 or I-4700, correct? And that'll be under the current contract, and then there will be a separate. We're essentially making the connection of the interchange
its own project
to something.
Yeah. We have to let that one.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
For my own curiosity on that, how long do we expect to have an interchange that's not connected to the network? For the
connector road should be constructed in time with the interchange. Yeah, the I-4700 project won't be finished for another, however long it is, a year and a half.
So no funding delays allowed on this.
Okay.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have any other questions or concerns?
This is Jody Ferguson, Haywood County. How does applying future year funding to projects affect us for the future?
There are a number of projects where the funding is pushed back a year.
So, I mean, it really depends on committed status. If I understand the question correctly, Jody, I mean, so long as the project's right of way is in the first 6 years, that project should remain committed, or first 5 years of the STIF, and the project should remain committed. But some of those changes, I think, are either financial or to allow more time for planning. If I understand that correctly. Is there a project you have in mind with those delays?
No, I was just kind of curious about that. Is it just seems like we're always struggling, especially for funding, and every time we postpone something, and it's, I'm sure, very necessary. I'm not questioning the necessity of it. It's just everything continues to get more expensive. It's kind of like we just kick the can. But sometimes that's what you have to do is kick the can. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And then I mean, something that we've been seeing over the last few years is that the lack of funding is necessitating delaying projects, which will inevitably increase costs. So, I think that's a good point. We need projects to, get going as fast as possible when they're able to.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I think you are looking for a motion for us to recommend approving this, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, does anyone want to make a motion in second?
This is Sam Cullen. I'll make a motion to approve.
This is Vicky Eastland. I'll second.
Thank you, and I will let y'all take us through roll call again.
Okay, City of Asheville, Anna Sexton.
Approve.
Art, Jessica Mora. Buncombe County, William High.
Approve.
Buncombe Transit, Chloe Donahoe.
Approve.
BPD, Daniel Sellers.
Approved.
Fletcher, Eric Rufa.
Aye.
Haywood County, Jody Ferguson.
Approve.
Apple Country Public Transit, Jana Bianculli.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Matt Manley. Maggie Valley, Sam Collins.
Aye.
Land of Sky RTO, Vicky Eastland.
Aye.
NCDOT Division 13, Hannah Smith.
Aye.
NCDOT Division 14, Steve Williams.
Aye.
Yeah, I have it. Did I miss anybody?
All right, so we'll move on to our last business item, which is an MOU. I'm not real sure what the MOU is for, but it's an MOU. Tristan, are you gonna walk us through that?
I will walk us through that. So, the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, is one of the more important documents of the MPO, although when I was more involved in running our website, I know it's something that didn't get the most hits. So, not the most exciting document, but one of the more important ones. And so this is something that we have been working on for about a year, and it's been kind of on the back burner that we were planning to bring forth when there's a lighter agenda, and this is the month. So first of all, what is an MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding? It's the interlocal agreement between all the member governments at the MPO and NCDOT that determines how decisions of the MPO will be made and who will make them, as well as what decisions fall to the MPO in accordance with federal requirements. So some of the big things to consider with the updated MOU is essentially how we establish our governing board, as well as the TCC. Who are the deciding members on those groups? And how will those groups make decisions? It sounds like it should be extremely simple, but there are some things to think through. Also something to note is we did spell out our dues structure and how local dues are split between dues paying members. So that is officially added to MOU as well. And also to point out, in terms of how this document moves forward, it is a bit unique. This isn't just something that the MPO board passes and that's it. This is something that, if approved by our board this month, would go to all the member governments in the MPO. We would await their signature and approval to come back. And then once that is done, it would come back through the MPO, TCC, and board. And also to note, for folks on the prioritization subcommittee, you'll probably notice the format and some of the regulatory language change from the last time it came forward. DOT developed an MOU template, and so we essentially moved a lot of our items over to the template. So a lot of the items regarding IIJA, federal requirements, and things like that are based on the DOT template. So in terms of the MPO board and its setup, we have made no changes to the voting MPO board membership. So the prioritization subcommittee that we've been working with on this, they recommended that we essentially continue with the current voting membership. So, as a reminder, every member government has at least one seat on the MPO board. Several of our local governments have 2 seats. That includes Buncombe County, Haywood County, Henderson County, and the city of Asheville. Those jurisdictions have 2 board seats. And also the urban and transit representatives that are voting members, they are officially in the MOU. Previously, they were in there via amendment, but with this MOU update, they would officially be added to the document. There were a couple of changes to non-voting membership. So the one seat being removed is the Transylvania County seat. That is being removed due to changes from the Asheville urban area and MPO boundaries made in 2022. So just as a reminder, we had a tiny sliver of Transylvania County in the MPO along US 64. I think there was a total of 100 residents and a large public storage facility that was in the MPO. With the updates to the urban area and the MPO boundaries, Transylvania County is no longer in the MPO. So they are 100% Land of Sky RPO now. So as a result, their non-voting seat has been removed. Also, we added FTA as a non-voting board member. With the MPO TCC, again, in terms of voting membership, no changes. Every local government gets 1 vote. Transit agencies also get 1 vote. So Asheville, Buncombe, Haywood, Henderson, they get an additional vote through their transit representation. And Land of Sky RPO, each of the DOT divisions in our area, as well as the DOT planning division, have a vote on the TCC, or continue to have a vote on the TCC. The non-voting is where things got a little bit interesting. Just to note again, subtractions from the MPO TCC, that includes Transylvania County, again, due to those changes in the boundaries. I should say, remains the same. A modification we made previously has stated NCDOT Transit. We changed that to NCDOT IMD, or the Integrated Mobility Division. There is no longer a transit division at NCDOT that was incorporated into IMD. Federal highways, Land of Sky Regional Council, Asheville Airport, and the WNC Air Quality Agency. All of those non-voting seats are remaining the same. The additions include FTA, a seat for NCDOT Rail Division, a seat to represent NCDOT Freight, and a regional housing seat that has been proposed to be basically an at-large seat that would be appointed by the TCC and board, and a vulnerable road user seat that would function the same way. It would be an at-large appointment by the TCC and board. So that would be the changes to the non-voting membership. And then again, the dues formalization. So the MPO dues structure is formalized in the document. The dues are split based on the percent of population in the MPO with inputs from the decennial census. Just as a reminder, our dues paying members are Buncombe County, Haywood County, Henderson County, Madison County, the city of Asheville, city of Hendersonville, and the town of Waynesville. That's a summary of the changes made to the MOU. And we are looking for TCC recommendation to the board today. Are there any questions? Yeah.
Justin, this is William. Just a clarification, in the packet you sent last night, and the draft resolution, it lists IMD as a voting member of the TCC, not as a non-voting member.
Okay, we can make that change.
It's also it was in both your summary and in the resolution. So I don't care if IMD votes or not. I'm just looking for clarification.
I believe the recommendation from prioritization was to have it as a non-voting member.
Okay.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions or comments? So does anyone want to make a motion to recommend this to the board? I am assuming with that change on IMD.
This is Steve. I'll make a motion with that change.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Hannah, I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, last time we have to do roll call.
City of Asheville, Anna Sexton.
Approve.
Buncombe County, William High.
Approve.
Buncombe Transit, Chloe Donahoe.
Approve.
EPD, Daniel Sellers.
Approved.
Fletcher, Eric Rupa.
Aye.
Haywood County, Jody Ferguson.
Approve.
Apple Country Public Transit, Jana Biancouli.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Matt Manley. Maggie Valley, Sam Collins.
Aye.
And the Sky RPO, Vicki Eastland.
Aye.
NCDOT Division 13, Hannah Smith.
Aye.
NCDOT Division 14, Steve Williams.
Approved.
All right, we'll move on to our informational item, which is the Haywood Road Improvement Project. And Brendan, I think you're doing this.
Thank you. I think I've got some slides, maybe that, about 5 or 6 slides, for just a quick update on the Haywood Road project, pardon me, which is HL 0003. It's a resurfacing project from Patton Avenue out to Ridge Lawn, about a 2-mile section of Haywood Road. There it is. So yeah, there'll be, typically we have all our facilities on a resurfacing schedule, and with this one we've added a few portions to the project to include some restriping or reconfiguration of the facility. We're adding some bicycle and pedestrian improvements, and actually some signalization as well. We can go to the next slide. And so I've got a summary of some of the main things we're doing out there. Of course, there's the pavement resurfacing, so everything will be renewed out there. And then through a lot of our stakeholder meetings, there were a lot of calls to reduce the speed out there, particularly on the west end of the facility and the east end, which is a little more open, if you're familiar with it. The road itself is a little wider out there than the central portion, which is more of the historic section, more built out sort of to the curve, if you will. So where it is currently signed 20 miles per hour, we'll just leave those in place, and then the rest of the entire facility will be posted at 25 miles per hour. At several locations along where there are existing crosswalks or where we're adjusting them a bit, we're adding the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. I've got an image of one down further along in the presentation. I think most people are familiar with them. They're the green signs. You can push a button, they flash, and they just are an extra warning to drivers to be aware that a pedestrian is in the area. We're adding bike lanes in both directions on the eastern and the western sections of the project. So that'll be from Patton Avenue to Sulphur Springs, and then the bike lanes will drop out there. We include sharrows throughout. That's again, it's the more central, the kind of tighter area where we just didn't have room to add bike lanes without sacrificing all the parking that's there. That was a big, a big issue that came up. A lot of, as you know, or maybe you know, there are a lot of businesses, particularly in that central portion, that rely on the parking. And even neighbors that live in the neighborhood around there were wanted to preserve that parking, because if people don't have a place to park on Haywood Road, they're going to push out further into the neighborhood excuse me. So we made the call to not try to squeeze the bike lanes in there, and then so we've got the sharrows. The bike lanes pick up again after the 240 bridge at Richmond, approximately Richmond Avenue, and all the way to Ridgelawn. As I mentioned, the sharrows will be added in the rest of the section. There are locations where we have pedestrian bulb outs, and I've got an image of what that means. But what that does is help a pedestrian at specific crosswalks. They have a curb section and an ADA ramp that they can sort of advance into the road without, they're still technically on the sidewalk, and that helps if there's cars parked. If they're crossing a crosswalk between parked cars, they're a little more visible because they're higher up. They're still up on that curved section, and vehicles can hopefully have a better chance to be aware that the pedestrian's about to cross. And then we've improved some or changed some pedestrian signalization at a few locations. So there's that RRSB, or the rapid flashing beacon, and everybody's probably familiar with these. You see them. You can walk up, push the button, the little rectangle below the sign of pedestrian on it flashes, and in both directions, and alerts. That's on both sides of the facilities. You may be able to see in the image. And we can go to the next one. This is the bulb out I was speaking about. So we created this detail. It's a non-standard, or if you will, it's not a standard that the DOT typically installs or has. So we worked with the city of Asheville and our ADA section in the DOT to kind of get something that is acceptable, that the contractor can purchase and install. You'll see that there, I don't know if you can tell from the image, but between the sidewalk and the ramp, there's a trench drain, and that's noted by the little rectangles along that section there. Thank you, Tristan. And that is because, as you can see, there's the curb there. If we put that bulb out, it's going to be essentially a dam for drainage, and drainage has been not an issue, but periodically we get calls about drainage on Haywood Road, so we don't want to impede the drainage. And we entered into an agreement with the city to maintain those trench drains. And I think we can go on to the next one. I did include an example from the plans. This is the intersection maybe some folks are familiar with, where we're adding, you can see that crosswalk that is parallel to Haywood Road that touches on that island there, that concrete island. If you're familiar with the area, this is where there's a Wells Fargo, that's to the south of the bottom end of that image is a parking lot, and what used to be a Wells Fargo and maybe an ATM. We got a lot of input on that intersection and how we can improve it and make it safer. So we've added that crosswalk, and hopefully that you see how it sort of flares out there toward that island. That'll provide a refuge if someone can only cross, half at a time during the cycle. And then I just want to call out the little red, there's those pedestrian bulb outs that I was speaking about at the top portion on the sidewalk. And you can sort of see the overlay. There's some cars parked in there, and we will have to adjust or sacrifice a parking space or two But you can see, how that would work, where the person on the sidewalk would step out onto that bulb out and then have a little better, vantage point to be seen and to see as they cross. And there's pedestrian signalization there as well. And I'll note that, so I don't have the entire plan set in this presentation. We just wanted to give a brief update, mainly on the schedule. The plan set's broken out into signalization, striping, and roadway. And it's, each one is a piece, and it's a little difficult to present the whole picture going through. And then I wanted to touch on the schedule. So we are going to let this project, which means the bids will hopefully come in on October 15th. So it's in about a month. I just received word yesterday. We have federal authorization for construction. So if we get a successful bid on the project, then construction can start as soon as late November of this year. And then the contractor has a window, and that window right now is set to be from that late November time to June of 2026. So approximately, 18 or 20 months or whatever that turns out to be. And that's not to say it'll take that long. The contractor has that window and can approach the project as they will, given, certain restrictions, of course, that we have applied. And there is a potential for night work closures on the facility, but other than that, the facility stays, we maintain traffic throughout the duration of the project, which is why sometimes they take a little longer than if you could just shut the whole thing down and do it all in one quick effort. But we can't block off the businesses and the residents from their access. So I think that's it. There might be a slide with my contact information on it, but that's where we stand right now.
Awesome. Are there any questions for Brendan?
I got two questions. I happened to drive this today, and I was talking to Philippe about it. There were definitely some encounters with pedestrians that I thought were troublesome in the drive. And one thing I noticed, and I think the bulb outs and visual crosswalks, I think it's all great. Two things I noticed was, one, because of the on-street parking, there's very little visual contrast between a pedestrian wearing the typical mid-beige clothing and the typical blue-gray car. And I don't know if that has ever been discussed or looked into, as far as the only thing that comes to my mind is like creating more of a backsplash from the opposite direction, color-wise, or if the curbs will have like the yellow hazard paint that creates more of a different color scheme to draw the eye. And the other thing that I noticed was the sheer amount of signs, like as a visual overload, was somewhat distracting. And I know most of those are business signs, but we talk about just on highways in general, you can get too far. I don't know if any effort can be, and you're about to add more signs, so I have a little bit of a concern or a question about how that can be handled.
And the signs, most of the signs we're adding are going to be the bright, yellow. And I know as you point out, over time things kind of become noise, and you tune them out if you're familiar with the facility. I don't know of any plan to, how to make that contrast. There's not any marking or coloration of the curbs in the current plan. We will have a few extra signs that, where the bike lanes drop out, that will advise that, the bike lane is ending, that, to, I can't remember the wording on the sign, but that you'll transition to where the sharrows are, and there'll be bicycles in the road. So yes, we will be adding some signage. And then some of the signage, of course, has to do with the parking, and it's a busy area, particularly in that central part, that might be where you're primarily talking about. So yeah, we run everything through our signing and delineation folks and our traffic folks, and they've approved everything, and we've worked with the city and the MPO and other stakeholders. So, that's not to say we couldn't change something later if we see issues.
I mean, I just want to point out, I was expecting Brendan to take a big victory lap on this one. I should have been more explicit. But I mean, to note, this is a very constrained corridor, so I know there's a lot of things that stakeholders have requested that aren't able to be incorporated. There were some tough decisions that had to be made between some of the different upgrades because you can't fit everything in there. But the amount of coordination on this project, I think, is a great model for projects moving forward. I want to give a shout out to Sarah Henry, who I don't think has worked at the city of Asheville in 5 or 6 years. Sarah worked with the West Asheville Business Association, who developed a list of transportation improvements they requested on Haywood Road. They brought in Brendan, and we're basically like, Brendan, please do this list of improvements. And Brendan noted that there was a resurfacing project coming up, but resurfacing can't do many additional improvements, especially that require additional materials. Brendan brought in us, and we worked out a plan on how we could potentially use locally administered project funds from the MPO and use the division's resurfacing funding as an edge. So really what we're getting out of this project is a resurfacing project through the corridor with additional improvements that have been developed at the very local level. And so to me, this is a way of getting some of those improvements, especially when times are tight. You know, also the local government contribution for this project, there still is some, but it's much less than what is generally needed from a project like this. So to me, great coordination. Brendan is at the heart of that. Brendan, take a victory lap. He's very uncomfortable with that. Fantastic coordination, a way to get improvements from a project where you otherwise wouldn't be able to get the improvements, and just a very efficient use of DOT, local government, and MPO resources. Again, that's not to say everything is going to be perfect, but I do think that we are going to see some improvements on this corridor. Jessica, you politely have your hand raised.
I want to also give a shout out to several people, including Brendan, of course. I just did a search of my calendar and pulled up meetings from early 2020, where we were talking about this project and doing field visits and just starting to discuss it. And I was looking at the invite list, and it included Barb Me, Andrew Seabor was our previous city traffic engineer. And I also want to give a shout out to, I think he goes by a different name, but William Carver at NCDOT. I believe he was the one that was doing a lot of the design work, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's Chase Carver.
Chase, yeah. And McCrae was also heavily involved in the beginning, McCrae Coates, and that was when he was no longer at the city, but was with NCDOT. And so I also want to give a shout out to NCDOT because it was actually NCDOT that proposed for us all to consider bike facilities on pieces of Haywood Road. That was not necessarily the city pushing for it. We were very excited when that was brought forward by DOT. And so even though it's 2024 and I've got meetings on my calendar from 2020 for this project, I'm super excited that we're here, and all the hard work that went into it is going to definitely pay off. And so thank you. That was a very long-winded thank you, but I wanted to thank some of the past folks that were involved as well.
Yeah, agreed. There's a long list of people. I'll even throw Tim Anderson in there who threw out some ideas that I had to ask if he meant the opposite at some points, but a lot of innovative ideas to help improve kind of the safety through the corridor, as well as really help fit in with the neighborhood association and the business association and the city's vision for the corridor. So, again, I think this is a great model for potential projects moving forward.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will move into our regular updates and we'll start with Division 13, followed by Division 14.
All right, thanks. Per usual, Steve and I provide the monthly reports for project development and active construction projects. You're seeing on your screen now our active construction projects in Buncombe and Madison County. There's quite a lot going on. I like to typically just touch on our interstate work because we have a lot of interstate work in this area going on right now. I'll start with I-4700, which is the I-26 widening in Buncombe and the new interchange project, HE0001. We do now have the eastbound traffic on the new eastbound alignment from Long Shoals to the airport road, and that's been in that pattern for a couple of months now, so you probably heard me say that in the past. There's still quite a bit of work going on for the Blue Ridge Parkway. A lot of bridge work going on as well as roadway work. So they're saying we're still a couple months out from switching traffic to the new bridge, and that demolition of the old bridge will probably occur sometime this winter. They do have a goal to have all traffic on the new westbound alignment just north of the interchange, the new interchange, to the north end of the project, so Brevard Road essentially, by the middle of November. So we'll have a pretty significant traffic switch coming out there soon. I'm sure there'll be press release for that. Let's see, the I-40 work from mile marker 50 to 45, they are planning their last eastbound closure to finish that bridge deck overlay. It's tentatively scheduled for this weekend. I believe a press release went out yesterday. So that'll be the last scheduled eastbound closure, presuming all goes according to plan this weekend. And then they'll switch back to westbound. And they are planning to have 4 more closures for westbound to finish the work. So, but they are anticipating all of that being done before winter. So they'll be done with the bridge deck resurfacing, and then in the spring they'll start the asphalt or the roadway resurfacing in that same 5-mile stretch of I-40. So look for that this weekend to be closed if you're in the area. Want to touch on the I-40 exit 53A. Again, they had finished the acceleration lanes, installing all the drainage, curb and gutter, but they are still waiting for the subcontractor to come install the final pavement markings. And so they're not quite done with that. They're hoping to be done with it by the 1st of October though. Let's see. Last thing I want to touch on is the bridges on 1923 over Reams Creek. They've been working on the superstructure for the new bridge. They have a deck pour scheduled for next week. And that's another area where they'll be looking to do another traffic switch in probably mid-November. So you'll probably hear more about that from me at our next meeting. But they're having some good progress on that one as well. That's really it for construction. Like I said, there's a lot of resurfacing still going on, a lot of bridges. But I just kind of wanted to touch on interstate. And then this is the project development update. Again, this is our STIP projects for Buncombe and Madison County. I like to keep the ones that are funded and not funded. on here, just so in case you wonder whatever happened to it, if I remove it from the list, it gets a little confusing, I think. So just keep in mind, anything that says not funded or funded for preliminary engineering only is subject to reevaluation in P8. And then all the other projects with dates in the near future are subject to change with the development of the next step that's currently underway as part of prioritization 7.0. So one thing I also wanted to add, because I see his name on here and I'm not sure it's been shared. Mike Clark, one of our project managers in Division 13, passed away last week. And so we are really soon or in the process of reassigning his work to other folks on our staff and gaining access to his project records. And so I would suggest if you have a question about any project on here that has Mike Clark as the project manager, to either reach out to me or to Brendan with any questions you might have in the meantime. And we'll be notifying folks accordingly as those projects are reassigned, but wanted to share that with the group also. And I think that's it for me, unless there's some questions.
Thank you, Hannah. And yeah, I just heard about Mike's passing. Just to note, I didn't know Mike terribly well, but as a project manager, he was always an extremely friendly face, always very helpful with coordination and communication. Even in the days when the relationship with Mike's division was not the easiest, Mike always made a point to make things as friendly and kind of lighthearted as possible. So Mike will most certainly be one.
Certainly. It's been, a lot of us at the office are very close to Mike, so it's been a shock to us and a difficult week and a half, but appreciate you saying that.
Okay, so we'll move on to Division 14 updates.
All right, let's start with I-26, which is kind of down a little ways. The pavement structure on the I-4400 section, this is the section in Henderson County, is mostly complete. Majority of the work ongoing right now is pouring the median barrier there. So I don't think that the 3 lanes will be open as long as the lanes on I-4700 are not open. But it is nearing completion. Hopefully beat that completion date next year. Otherwise, in Haywood County, it's the projects you've been seeing for a while. Keep in mind that the bridges on I-40 near Jonathan Creek, there's 2 more bridges to be constructed. Those have let, in a sense. There's actually a supplemental agreement that added into the existing contract, and they're installing erosion control measures right now and some barriers as well. 3 bridges were added since last month's update, and those are the ones over Beaver Dam, on I-40 near Canton, the ones over Beaver Dam Road, Incinerator Road, and over 215. And if you're observant, you'll notice that those completion dates have already passed, and that's the holder that's in the construction database. As they have the pre-construction meetings, they'll set dates, and I'll change that for next month. The pedestrian project there on US 19 in Maggie Valley is complete, other than minor punch list type stuff. And in Henderson County, again, it's the same projects that you've been seeing for a while. Nothing's been added there. Project development side of things. The TIP projects right now are schedules are holding, but we really kind of anticipate, as has already been covered, Rick, that when the revised, or when the STIP comes out, the draft STIP comes out in January, you'll probably see some of these STIP dates changing. Bridges are moving out, same bridges that you've been seeing on here for a while. There is a safety project in Clyde that was installing Hawk beacons there, and that should be started within the next week or two. And there's several bridges in Henderson County that the dates have changed, anywhere from 10 months out to 4 years delay, and that's all about balancing the budget. You can take a look at these on the French Water website if you have any questions later or now. Please ask.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you to both of y'all. And we'll move on to Daniel with our our Transportation Planning Branch updates.
All right, just like the divisions, I'll start with an I-26 update. We delivered a new continual traffic forecast for I-26 two weeks ago, and then shared it with the Patton Avenue project team so that those can work, those two project efforts can work off the same data and coordinate with each other. I didn't deeply look at the forecast. I don't think there were any real significant hiccups or changes from the previous forecast. But that's, I think, the only traffic forecast we had out right now. We're also working on travel demand model updates, which are getting close to having a base year done, as we cross our fingers. But that is a critical part of the MCP updates, which are moving. I think Tristan will have a better update than I will on those meetings. Other than that, the CTP updates from the meetings in the spring and the summer have been incorporated. I've delivered them to my management pipeline for review. Hope to have those in front of you as soon as I can, because nobody likes sitting on projects or plans. And other than that, I brought my coworker Talik with me and asked him to prepare some of the usual fun and color comments that I share. So I'll take it away.
Yes, so my name is Talik Lassiter. I am a TA of NCWB, and I'm just here to give everybody a news update of what we have going on. I'll start off with the NC awarded $1 million grant for EV chargers. Right now, for research, this grant will install 20 level 2 EV charging stations at 10 community colleges statewide. Some of those locations are Blue Ridge Community College in Flat Rock, North Carolina, Central Carolina Community College in Sanford, North Carolina, Edgecombe Community College in Tarboro, North Carolina, and Fayetteville Technical Community College in North Carolina. Also, we discovered that state officials are using $109 million in EV funds to develop an EV charging lawn in interstates, major highways, in most communities. Next big event we have going on is NCDMV launches kiosk plan. From here, we just decided to put effort into shorten lines and wait times on offices across the state and to provide services outside of typical office hours in NCE Division of Motor Vehicles, and piloting to the use of self-service kiosks in grocery stores. Also, you can use customers can use now renew their driver license, state ID, and print temporary driver identification certificate unless they renewed online last time. Another thing is we have a partner named ITI, which is called Intellectual Technology. So this partner here, let's see, ITI is consultated with which consultated with $4.95 fee per transaction. Customers will also be charged 2% credit debit card processing fee. Just also picking up on this next one is just award grants to improve short line railroads. So this one, as you may know, NCDOT Rail Division is investing $1.8 million as part of 50/50 matching granting funding to improve rail infrastructure on 3 short line railroads. According to the state, the grant funding, this is in addition to $10.2 million to 12 short line railroads that was announced last year, December 2023, under the same program. Most of these projects will approve 3 railroad bridges and 18 miles of road track improvements in North Carolina, supporting an increase of freight rail traffic on statewide railroad network and reducing highway traffic congestion by diverting freight to rail. This is also a public partnership that helps efficiently and cost effectively meet the growing demand for rail service. Also, we wanted to, look into NCDOT adopts traffic signal policy for improving pedestrian safety. So we have this word called LPI, which is lead pedestrian interval. It's also becoming known downtowns of state largest cities like Charlotte and Raleigh. But NCDOT is working to add this feature in all signalized pedestrian crossings statewide. Since making this policy early on this year, during the year, the department estimates 20% of those intersections now have a lead pedestrian interval for improved safety. On average, there are 880 pedestrian-related crashes per year occurring in or near intersections in North Carolina. About 40% of all pedestrian-related crashes. Average of 47 pedestrian fatalities per year occurring near intersections, about 23% of all pedestrian fatalities. Just some more numbers. So often-related vehicle returning, so these pedestrian-related crashes and intersections, most of the often-related and vehicle returning intersections, which is 35% of the time, typically occur in urban and commercial residential areas. Also, it occurs in civilized intersections about twice as often as intersections with stop signs. Most often on 35 miles per hour roads, 49%, followed by 20 to 25 miles per hour roads, 20%, and 40 to 45 miles per roads, 20%. That's it for that. And I guess I can talk about the scholarships that NCDOT awards scholarships to students, Black colleges and universities. So as you may know, the Southeastern Association of State Highway Transportation has awarded more than $15,000 in scholarship funds to NCDOT Office of Historically Black Colleges and University Scholarship Program. And, we came up with a committee of representatives in NCDOT employees to select the scholarship winners by scoring each student academic achievement and personal statement expressing the student interest in transportation. Each 1,100 scholarship will be awarded for the upcoming 2024 fall academic semester and will be applied to recipients' school financial accounts to assist with any school-related costs. And last but not least, I just talked about EO 246 goals. As you may know, back in January 2022, Governor Cooper signed the Executive Order 246, North Carolina's transformation to clean and equitable economy. The main goal of this order is to reduce economy-wide greenhouse gas emissions to at least 50% below 2005 levels by 2030 and achieve net zero emissions no later than 2050. Also, another important fact, NCDOT wanted to increase the total number of registered zero emissions vehicles at least 1,250,000 by 2030 and increase the sale of ZEVs so that 50% of in-state sales of new vehicles are zero emission by 2030. That's it.
Thank you. About the kiosks, I finally started meeting a few people who have used them, and so far what I've heard is the experiences have been pretty good. When I had to renew my driver's license this summer, I was not eligible to use the kiosk, and instead spent 7 hours at the DMV. So I would have enjoyed such a fun ride. I accidentally stalled. How are you going to start off with I-26?
I'm the only one who doesn't have an update on I-26.
All right, thank you. And then I guess we'll move to FHWA FTA updates.
Yes, I just about an hour before the meeting started gave my updates to Tristan, so I'm sorry you all. But
They sent emails to the TCC.
Oh, great! You're awesome. So I guess I'll go through some of the items in the update. So PROAG, so that's the Accessibility Access Board. They issued some guidelines specific to transit stops, and they're proposing to codify ProWag. So if you have any comments, then you can, everything on here has a link. So if you want to comment, then you have until September 23rd to comment on that. As you know, the CFI grant, the Charging Fueling Infrastructure Grant, the applications ended on the 11th, so yesterday. But besides that, they had already awarded some funds to people who had applied last year, and there was still some funding left, including one that was mentioned earlier, which was for NCDOT, for those community colleges. So that's really great. And then there's some planning grants for the Bridge Investment Program that was awarded back in August 7th and August 13th. There was an award for Complete Streets AI initiative, and those were awarded to some small businesses to leverage advancements in AI to improve siting, design, and deployment of complete streets. And so that one, we got, there was an award to a business in North Carolina. It was Kittleson and Associates, and their award is titled Safe Routes for All, using AI-based image recognition and machine learning algorithms for network-wide assessment and routing of multimodal trips based on level of traffic stress. So very interesting title. So looking forward to see what that's about and how we can use AI for our work. Let's see what else we got going on. There's also the, there's a grant available for low carbon transportation materials program. So there's $800 million available to, you can apply, the deadline is November 25th. So this is for, they had a DOT version, but now non-state DOTs can apply, so local government, MPO, special districts. And this is going to be 100% federal funds, so no local share required, but it's specific to using low embodied carbon construction materials on construction projects. So these are for projects titled under Title 23, so basically our highway funds. So it doesn't pay for your entire project, but it pays for all those materials that are low carbon, so you wouldn't have to pay for it. So you would consider using any projects that you have maybe that are funded under DA, maybe there's materials that you can use to make it low carbon, and then you have to pay for that, or even any other projects that NCDOT is doing maybe locally for you. Yes?
A quick question on that. This is a FHWA grant.
Yes.
So we're already working in the realm of like highway transportation materials. With almost everything is pretty high carbon when you get to concrete and asphalt and steel. So is it just relatively low carbon, like within the ecosystem of what we use, or does it actually have to be low carbon as people outside our industry would think of it?
So they have a list of like materials within the NOFO that they identify as low carbon, so it's just best to kind of read that. I was working, I did a little rotation with like the pavement group earlier last year, and so it's about using like low carbon materials for like asphalt construction. So like even using those kinds of things can be eligible too. Yeah. So, you know, think about those projects that you have that are upcoming, or ones that you have now. Maybe you can get those funds for those materials. You have until November 25th, so kind of nice, 100% federal dollars. So then some other grants that have deadlines approaching. We have the Railroad Crossing Elimination Grant Program. That one's December 23rd. Reconnecting Communities, September 30th. And then the Restoration and Enhancement Grant, that one's September 30th as well. There's, as far as publications, and new resources, there was a letter that was sent out to our office. And so we're gonna look more into it to figure out like the best way for the NPOs to use this information. So it's like the second one called Clarified Waiver for the Non-Federal Match for FBRMPO funds to support complete streets planning. So previously, you guys were notified that you'd have to use at least 2.5% of your PL dollars for planning for complete streets, and those would actually be 100% federal. So to kind of match with what FTA is doing, there's this new memo that came out that said, actually, whatever complete streets that you do can be 100% federal. So that's kind of wide and encompassing. So, you know, if you have anything like complete streets, maybe a local government that doesn't have to worry about the match, you know, they can do that. There's no like limit within your fund. So, like I said, I think at the next quarterly MPO meeting, George Hoops, the head of our group, might talk about it. I think he's trying to figure out the best way to kind of disseminate that information. So.
And that's the harm. So a question to ask him before tomorrow, for my group, or, you know, for the administrative side of that, do those have to be pre-identified as complete street funds in the PWP?
Yeah, you'd have to identify it since it's going to be 100%, so it's not, kind of like we had it separated in the UPWP for that 2.5, you'll have to do it then. I mean, you can do an amendment.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a separate line item, yeah.
Yeah. So, let's see. And then you have some upcoming webinars that might be interesting and ones that have already happened. There's the first one, roadway safety for people experiencing homelessness. That one was on the 4th, so there's probably a recording out for that. And then September 10th, a couple days ago, was the EV experience, what to expect from public charging. And there's another one coming up September 23rd, which is meaningful public involvement for NEPA. So, you know, that's very important sometimes. People think just sending an email or a letter out is considered enough, but it really isn't. So with NEPA documents, because they fall under federal agencies, then, you know, and because there are challenges and lawsuits, all that, we need to ensure that we're actually engaging the public, whether they are EJ or non-EJ community stuff that engage them. So definitely check out this webinar, and that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Suzanne.
Maybe a question for Tristan.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. There was a deadline there for September 4th for wildlife crossings. And I remember seeing an email maybe right before I left the office yesterday about the I-40 wildlife crossings.
So both of the locations being submitted by NCDOT are within the Land of Sky RPO, but that's a letter of support on the consent agenda. DOT is going after that program for, I believe, 4 different wildlife crossings. One in Haywood County in the Gorge, one in Madison County north of the MPO boundary, and then one in Dare County and one in Washington County. They are submitting, and 2 of those locations were from the wildlife crossing report that was approved by the TCC and board last September.
I don't know if it was extended or not, like that. I don't know the deadline.
In terms of staff reports, I'll just say our committees are continuing their work. Some of the big things going through the prioritization subcommittee, the 2050 socioeconomic projections, we are hoping to have draft scenarios available at the October meeting. So a lot of things have to come together, and we're hopeful that they will. But we're hoping to see growth scenarios for our region in 2050 or to 2050 at the October meeting. for prioritization, and that'll plan to come back through in November. The CTP MTP update, we got the prioritization subcommittee got an update on that planning effort. The vision and goals for that plan have been drafted. The subcommittee had a few edits that the consultant has incorporated, but that is planning to come back to the TCC and board for their preliminary approval next month. The Safe Streets for All Regional Action Plan, the steering committee met on Tuesday to go through some of the initial findings, including the high crash corridors, high crash intersections, and the consultant's risk-based analysis. It is, I will just say, really cool stuff, and an opportunity for us to really improve some of our safety planning, especially. So we'll be talking about that more, and that process is about halfway through. So we'll be planning an update for the TCC and board most likely in November. Besides that, I'll just note the Woodson-Weaverville Greenway study, the consultant has been selected. That is at DOT's, I'll just say the accountants, for their approval. And the Buncombe County pedestrian plan, the RFLOI, has been drafted. So I believe we're waiting on DOT approval of the RFLOI before putting that out. Hoping to get that soon. Approve it. Oh, you did approve it? Okay. It'll be out soon. We got to approve it. Besides that, thank you for all of the updates on locally administered projects. So we will continue to have those listed in the agenda packet. The Black Mountain Riverwalk Greenway, the improvements in Black Mountain had their public meeting, I believe that was yesterday. I was not able to attend, but looking forward to hearing how that went. And besides that, we will be having a number of meetings coming up in the next few weeks on division needs. Buncombe County and Haywood County, you guys have your meetings scheduled. Buncombe County, I believe, is next Friday. Haywood County, I believe, is about a week and a half. And Henderson TAC will be asking for priority division needs projects there. And the draft division needs projects getting local input points will go through the TCC and board in October, out for public comment, and then back in November for final approval. Also, we'll be starting phase 2 of public engagement on the MTP. That is expected, or we're expecting materials to go out relatively soon for more public engagement in the MTP. With legislative updates, just a couple to note. One of them is Senate Bill 166. That's one that the governor vetoed, and that veto is overridden. Just to note, there's a whole lot, especially for planners in that, but a couple of transportation items. The law prohibits cities from requiring sidewalks for small residential subdivisions in their ETJs, unless the city plans or makes clear that it will take over maintenance of those facilities. It also prohibits local governments from requiring curb and gutter design standards beyond those adopted for NCDOT subdivision roads. And also artificial turf in terms of stormwater is not to be considered a built upon area should there be approved drainage as part of that installation. That is one item that became law. Any questions or comments?
All right, is there any items or topics for next month anyone wants to propose? Okay, last call for public comment. All right, this was kind of a short meeting. Appreciate everyone's time, and we are adjourned.
Thank you both.
Kristen, with the Weaverville, was it 2 weeks ago we submitted it to OIG? I ain't calling it submitted.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's gone to OIG.
Yeah.
All right. I just need to follow up.
It went and, there were comments about lunches or something like that.
Yes.
So the lunches got taken out and
They got resubmitted.
right.
And then I sent it to OIG.
Right.